A fabulous and underappreciated War Games match caps off what was an overall average pay-per-view for WCW. I'm John Ritlin with a retro review of WCW WrestleWar 1992. Yep, Shivani and Bischoff kick us off with, talking about the War Games match, and then they would talk about other matches throughout the night. JR and Ventura on commentary, and I'm jumping right on into it, talking about the dark match, which I didn't get to see because it was a dark match. DDP and Thomas Rich versus Bob Cook and Firebreaker Chip. Good thing they didn't put that on the pay-per-view. Nothing against DDP, and I don't know who the hell Bob Cook is, but Firebreaker Chip and Todd Champion, the WCW Special Forces. What did they need Special Forces for? Was there an invasion coming in from another company? Wait, that wasn't until 1996. So we started with the Freebirds, Hayes and Garvin, versus the Taylor-Made Man, Terry Taylor and Greg Valentine, the United States Tag Team Champions. So, since it's a title match, the Birds were faces because it's Jacksonville, and Hayes and Garvin, I think, were just more appreciated. But it was veterans, all veterans in this match. And it was fine. There was some good psychology working on the arms of Taylor and Valentine. But that being said, this match went on a bit too long. I think they could have cut a few minutes off of this. And I don't think it really would have been a miss. And Garvin eventually hits the DDT and gets the victory over Taylor. 1-2-3, new U.S. Tag Team Champions. And then eventually they would get the U.S. Tag titles would just go away. Bill Watts would consolidate them along with a few others. But it was fine. It just wasn't a great match, as you would expect with any match that Hayes and Garvin are involved in. Announcers kill time, and then we get Johnny B. Bad versus Young Pistol, Tracy Smothers. Ventura about Johnny B. Bad. A guy who wouldn't mind being called a bridesmaid. Wow. All right. But whatever, he was a heel commentator, so I guess that's what he was supposed to say. Granted, Johnny B. Bad did wear a whole lot of makeup and stuff like that and everything, but even in 92, that's a lot of stuff that really has not aged all that well. The match was okay. It was between two lightweight guys, even though you would have thought they were above the light heavyweight limit. There was an awkward cross-body spot by Tracy, even though he's a good athlete. And, Johnny B. Bad fisted him hard. The kiss that don't miss. 1, 2, 3, and there you go. The Freebirds are with some woman getting some promo time and everything. And I don't mean Missy Hyatt. I have no idea who the brunette woman was with them, as some stuff in WCW kind of, escapes me. Then we get Scotty Flamingo versus Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Scotty would later become a wrestler everybody would be raving about. I'm going to let that sit there, and I'm going to see if anyone gets it. I can hear the collective groans already. It was okay. Bagwell was never the best. I think he would have been a lot better if they made him a babyface instead of a heel later in his WCW run. Match is okay, though. Scotty Flamingo was a fucking dead-end character, even as talented as the future Raven was. And we get a roll-up with the tights. 1, 2, 3. Scotty Flamingo gets the victory, and then would later beat Brian Pillman for the light heavyweight championship. Beach Blast 92 ads. So goddamn early 90s. And then we get footage of JYD helping out Ron Simmons as Abdullah the Butcher, and Cactus Jack beat up Simmons, the future WCW champion. And it was supposed to be Curtis Hughes, or Mr. Hughes, and Cactus Jack against Ron Simmons and JYD. Well, during JYD and Simmons' entrance, Cactus Jack had snuck to the back after coming out with Mr. Hughes, and then attacked JYD, hit his elbow off the ramp onto the concrete, because JYD in WCW at that point was a mistake. So it became a singles match, Simmons versus Mr. Hughes, and it was designed to get Simmons over, and it did. He hit a 3-point stance chop block, 1, 2, 3. It was like 5.5 minutes. Hughes was never all that great in the ring either. And, Cactus Jack kept trying to interfere. That didn't really work. Super Invader, who was Hercules under a mask, who had just left WWE a bit before, with Harley Race versus Todd Champion. And the Super Invader was, he was named as from Bangkok, Thailand. He was clearly a white guy under a mask. I know wrestling is silly, but what the fuck? It was fine. He had a powerbomb on Todd after like 7.5 minutes for 3. There isn't a lot to talk about with some of these matches because they were just kind of there. Richard Morton versus Big Josh. Big Josh, the future Doink. No, really, he was the future Doink. Morton was a heel, I think. I'm not really sure, because he was out of the York Foundation thing, because they dissolved that pretty goddamn quickly. And he hit the Northern Exposure, which was to sit out, the big one, like what Earthquake did. And he pinned Morton, yet it seemed like everybody was confused about where the 3 count actually hit, but then they just called it. It made no goddamn sense. Now we get to actually the good parts of the pay-per-view. It was Tom Zink versus Brian Pillman. Yes, I'm putting over a Tom Zink match, mainly because Brian Pillman. Light heavyweight championship match. This team exploding. They had been battling over, which one had the better mullet. It was obviously Brian Pillman, and he had the wrestling ability and the charisma and the presence. And he wasn't Tom Zink. And I know that Tom Zink wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. This was the best he'd looked, though, in a singles program. They had some great one-upping because they know each other so well. They teamed up for so long. Great mixture of high flying and submissions. Zink did heel it up, which was smart. Very smart for him to do that, even though he got some cheers and some very close near falls. But eventually, Pillman got a jackknife cover 1, 2, 3. I promise you guys, though, if you check this out, you will enjoy this match. It's certainly not the best, but as far as a Tom Zink match, but especially, some forgotten stuff from Brian Pillman's career, this was pretty goddamn good. And then we get Tatsumi Fujinami versus Iizuka. Yes, the guy who would later, put on a weird, metal glove, the iron fingers and everything, and retired, last year. Yes, the future crazy man Iizuka that would come through the crowd was here as a young, fresh-faced Japanese wrestler and a powerhouse, and they took on the Steiner brothers. Number 1 contenders match for the IWGP Tag Team Championship. This was fabulous. Check this out. This was very good shit. There was even this one point where Fujinami had Rick Steiner on his shoulders. Iizuka went to do a move, kind of like the old kind of like the Doomsday Device, but he went to do a splash, and then Rick Steiner countered it and rolled onto him. It was just so many great counters, so many suplexes, so much good shit here. This is what tag team wrestling is all about. And especially the fact Fujinami, a lot of people forget just how good Fujinami is, myself included. And Iizuka, it was so good to see Iizuka young and in shape and not broken down, because Jesus Christ, the last couple of years of his career were really hard to watch because he beat up his body so goddamn much. This was great shit. Iizuka was bleeding from the nose. One of his eyes was starting to close a little bit from the swelling. Great amateur wrestling, power moves, really good stuff. And a belly-to-belly suplex off the ropes. And Rick Steiner got the victory, 1, 2, 3. So there we go, he pinned Iizuka. This was good shit. This was really good shit. This brought the crowd back into it, along with Tom Zink and Pillman. Leading up to the main event, Sting Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance. Sting Squadron was Sting. Obviously, it'd be weird if Sting was not involved with his own squadron. Barry Windham, Dustin Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat, and Nikita Koloff. Sting and Nikita Koloff, it was a bit of a debate. Could these former rivals actually get along? Was Nikita on the up and up? And he would later prove that he was. And the Dangerous Alliance was Stunning Steve Austin, Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko, and Bobby Eaton. Paulie Dangerously, Medusa Michelli at ringside. Or, I think she was just Medusa at this point, but sometimes, Medusa Michelli is what she was referred to early on in her career. War Games match. This was a bloody good time, literally, because Anderson, Windham, Austin really bled. Austin was fucking gushing. There were a couple others that were bleeding, but those were the main ones. This was pretty damn good. Pretty goddamn good. Very underappreciated War Games match. I would say it would be my top 5, and I'm including the ones that WWE has done. As far as at least ones that I've seen that are on TV, I'm sure there were some ones on, house shows during the Great American Bashes in the 80s that were maybe better and bloodier, but still, this was really good shit. Austin and Windham start, TV champion versus former TV champion. They start for 5 minutes, and then the idea is a coin flip happens, and whoever wins the coin toss gets the advantage. The heels always gain the advantage for some reason. And instant blood, and Rude gets in. He battles for 2 minutes, and then Steamboat gets in. They renew their rivalry that had started, well, a bit before Super Brawl 2, but would continue through at least, the summer of 92. And then Arn gets in, then Dustin gets in, and they would even, fight all the way to 1994, off and on. And then Zbyszko gets in. And then Medusa gets up on the cage, and then drops Paulie's brick of a cell phone through the cage, and, they start calling somebody. Somebody better call their ow. They got hit in the head with it. And then Sting chases her down after getting up on the cage pretty easily. Doug Dillinger was not there to pull him down, thank God. And then Arn was bleeding. Then Eaton got in. Then Nikita got in as the final 2. And then Rude took off the top turnbuckle and, had the little spiky pad thing and everything. And they were going to go for the stab. They were going to try to kill somebody, basically, with this whole thing. And then Zbyszko got it. He was going to hit Sting, but he hit Eaton. And then Eaton, he hit him in the shoulder. Eaton got his shoulder focused on and gave up. And then we were going to get a breakup of the Dangerous Alliance, or at least Zbyszko leaving. Yeah, this would kind of spell near the end of Heyman leaving WCW. He would leave a number of months after this. But this was a pretty damn good War Games match, and I encourage you guys to check it out. It really a lot of fun. Like, if it wasn't for the last 3 matches, if everything else was just pedestrian, this would have been one of the lesser pay-per-views that WCW put on in the early 90s. But overall, not bad, pretty average. I'd say the good outweighed the bad, because the good matches at least are more memorable, but there is some fat that they need to trim, and they would later in 92. So, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.